There are days when your own mind becomes a room you do not want to stay inside. You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, something is already weighing on you. A thought arrives, then another. A memory opens its door. A fear walks in behind it. And suddenly, before the day has even introduced itself, you are carrying the weight of things that have not happened, things that happened long ago, and things you cannot change at all. But listen carefully. A heavy mind is not a heavy life. What you are thinking in this moment is not necessarily the truth of your entire existence. A thought can be loud without being wise. A fear can feel urgent without being real. A painful memory can return without asking permission. But its return does not mean you have to build a home for it. Sometimes the mind becomes negative because it has been tired for too long. Sometimes it is trying to protect you by imagining every possible disappointment before it arrives. Sometimes you have spent so much time listening to criticism, rejection, comparison, and fear that those voices begin to sound like your own. And that is where you must become still. Not because life has suddenly become easy, not because every problem has disappeared, but because you are finally remembering that you do not have to follow every thought that crosses your mind. Let the thought come, let it speak, and then let it pass. You do not have to wrestle with every shadow. You do not have to answer every fear. You do not have to prove yourself to every voice inside your head. There's a quiet strength in saying, this thought is here, but it does not own me. Take a breath, feel where you are. Look at what is actually happening around you instead of everything your mind is predicting. This moment is still yours. And perhaps that is where your freedom begins. Not when the world stops giving you reasons to worry, but when you stop handing every worry the keys to your inner life. You have carried enough. You have replayed enough conversations. You have imagined enough endings. You have punished yourself enough for yesterday. Now it is time to return to yourself. Not tomorrow, not when everything is perfect, now. Because sometimes letting go of negative thoughts does not mean forcing your mind to become happy. It means becoming strong enough to stop feeding what is hurting you. And when you learn that, something inside you begins to change. The mind becomes quieter. The breath becomes deeper. The heart remembers its own rhythm. And you begin to understand that peace was never as far away as you thought. It was waiting beneath all the noise, waiting for you to stop chasing every thought and finally come home to yourself. There are moments when the mind feels so crowded that you begin to mistake the noise for who you are. One painful thought becomes another, and soon you are no longer simply having a difficult day. You are telling yourself that you are a difficult person, that your future is hopeless, that you will always feel this way. But a thought is not a verdict. It is an event passing through the mind. This distinction matters because the mind often speaks with certainty when it is tired, frightened, disappointed, or overwhelmed. It says, nothing will change. It says, you are not enough. It says, everyone is against you. Yet, the fact that a thought feels powerful does not make it permanent or true. Feelings are real experiences, but they are not always accurate predictions of what comes next. When dark clouds cover the sky, you do not conclude that the sun has disappeared forever. You understand that it is still there, even though you cannot see it. Negative thinking can be like that. It can cover your inner landscape until you forget that another way of seeing is still possible. You do not need to become positive every second. You do not need to force a smile over pain. You do not need to pretend that everything is wonderful when it is not. What you need is a little distance between yourself and the thought. Instead of saying, "My life is falling apart," you can say, "I am having a moment where everything feels overwhelming." Instead of, "I am a failure," you can say, "I am disappointed with what happened." That small change in language can create a doorway, because you are not the worst thing you have thought about yourself. You are not your most frightened morning. You are not the mistake you keep replaying. You are not the rejection that made you question your worth. You are a person experiencing a moment, and moments move. Sometimes the mind becomes heavy because you have been carrying yesterday into today. You keep reopening old wounds, asking different questions of the same painful memories, hoping they will finally give you an answer that makes everything make sense. But healing does not always come from understanding every detail. Sometimes it begins with refusing to let an old moment become the author of every new one. When a negative thought arrives, pause before believing it. Ask yourself, is this a fact or is this fear speaking? Ask, would I say these words to someone I love? Ask, what is actually true right now? These questions interrupt the habit of turning one painful thought into an entire identity. Your mind may visit dark places. Let it know that you are listening, but you are not surrendering your whole life to what it says. You can acknowledge the thought without becoming it, feel the emotion without obeying it, and remember that the person you are becoming is larger than the moment you are surviving. One of the most exhausting things you can do to yourself is fight every negative thought that enters your mind. You see the thought, you dislike it, you become afraid of it, and then you begin arguing with it. You tell yourself, I should not be thinking this. Why am I thinking this? What is wrong with me? And suddenly, the original thought is no longer the only problem. Now you are fighting yourself for having it. But thoughts are not commands. They are not prophecies. They are not permanent residents. They are passing visitors. Some arrive carrying wisdom. Some arrive carrying fear. Some arrive because of something that happened yesterday. Some are simply old patterns repeating themselves because the mind has practiced them for so long. You do not have to open the door to every one of them. When a negative thought appears, you can learn to notice it without feeding it. This does not mean pretending the thought does not exist. It means refusing to give it unnecessary attention. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves fall into the water and begin floating downstream. You do not need to jump into the river and chase every leaf. You can simply watch it move. The mind can be treated in much the same way. A thought appears, and instead of grabbing it, analyzing it, defending yourself against it, or building an entire story around it, you notice it and allow it to move. You might say, there is that fear again, not, this fear is my truth. There is a difference. The first gives you awareness. The second gives the thought authority. And authority is exactly what negative thinking often wants. A fearful thought may tell you that something terrible will happen. If you begin arguing with it for an hour, you have already given it an hour of your life. If you keep replaying it, searching for evidence, imagining every possible disaster, the thought grows stronger through repetition. The mind learns what you repeatedly practice. So instead of wrestling with every thought, become curious about it. Where did it come from? What is it asking you to fear? Is it based on something happening now or something that happened before? Does it help you solve a problem? Or does it simply keep you trapped inside one? You do not have to answer every question immediately. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply to breathe and say, I see this thought, but I do not have to follow it. That sentence can become a quiet form of freedom. You can allow sadness to exist without turning it into a prediction about your entire future. You can acknowledge anger without allowing it to dictate your next decision. You can feel uncertainty without deciding that uncertainty means disaster. There is strength in observation. There is strength in silence. There is strength in refusing to turn every passing thought into a permanent belief. Your mind will speak. Let it speak. But remember that you are the one who chooses which voices deserve a seat at the table. And perhaps peace begins when you stop demanding that your mind never produce another negative thought, and instead learn that you can hear the thought, breathe through it, let it pass, and continue walking without allowing it to become the story of your life. When your mind becomes heavy, it often does not remain in the present. It travels backward to conversations you wish you could change, mistakes you wish you could erase, moments when someone hurt you, and decisions you continue to question. Then it travels forward, imagining what might happen tomorrow, next month, next year. And somewhere between yesterday and tomorrow, you lose the only moment you can actually live. Now, the present moment is where your power lives. You cannot rewrite yesterday from your bedroom. You cannot control tomorrow by worrying about it tonight. You cannot make another person understand you by replaying the same conversation 100 times inside your head. But you can return to this breath. You can return to this room. You can return to what is actually happening instead of what your mind says might happen. That return is not weakness. It is discipline. When negative thoughts begin moving faster than you can catch them, stop for a moment. Take one slow breath. Notice the air entering your body. Notice the ground beneath your feet. Notice the sounds around you. Look at something in front of you and truly see it. Feel your hands. Relax your shoulders. You are reminding your mind that you are here, not somewhere in an imagined disaster. The mind may tell you, what if everything goes wrong? Bring it back gently. What is happening right now? Maybe right now you are sitting safely in a room. Maybe you are drinking water. Maybe you are working. Maybe the person you love is still beside you. Maybe the problem you fear has not even happened. The present does not promise that everything will be easy, but it gives you something anxiety cannot give you. Something real to work with. You do not need to solve your entire life today. You need to live this moment honestly. If there is a problem you can solve, take one step. If there is something you cannot solve right now, give yourself permission to set it down temporarily. If your mind keeps returning to the past, Remind yourself that the past can teach you without being allowed to imprison you. There is a difference between reflection and rumination. Reflection asks, what can I learn? Rumination asks, why did this happen again and again? Reflection moves you forward. Rumination keeps you circling the same wound. So come back to the breath, come back to your body, come back to the work in front of you. Come back to the people who are actually here. Come back to this single hour instead of carrying the weight of every hour that has not arrived. The present moment may seem small, almost insignificant, but your life is made entirely of these small moments. Your future is not built in one enormous leap. It is built through what you repeatedly do with the moment placed in front of you. When your mind feels heavy, you do not always need another answer. Sometimes you need an anchor, and the simplest anchor may be this. Breathe, look around, feel your feet, and remind yourself that you are here. Yesterday has already happened. Tomorrow has not arrived. But this moment is breathing with you. Stay here long enough to remember that you are still capable of choosing your next thought, your next action, and your next step. And sometimes that one small choice is enough to begin turning a heavy mind toward a lighter life. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to control what was never yours to control. You carry other people's opinions, their reactions, their choices, their silence, their approval, and their rejection, as though all of these things were responsibilities placed in your hands. You carry yesterday as if you could go back and change it. You carry tomorrow as if worrying about it could guarantee that nothing will go wrong. And eventually, the mind becomes heavy, not because life has asked you to carry everything, but because you have forgotten that you are allowed to put some things down. You cannot control how another person sees you. You cannot control whether someone understands your heart. You cannot control whether someone stays, leaves, agrees, disagrees, applauds, criticizes, or misunderstands. You can explain yourself, but you cannot control whether someone listens. You can offer love, but you cannot command someone to return it. You can do your best, but you cannot control every outcome. And accepting this is not surrendering your strength. It is reclaiming it. Imagine spending your entire day trying to hold the wind in your hands. You would become exhausted, frustrated, and disappointed. But the wind would continue moving exactly as it was meant to move. Some things in life are like that. The more tightly you try to control them, the more powerless you feel. Peace begins when you learn to distinguish between what belongs to you and what does not. Your choices belong to you. Your effort belongs to you. Your boundaries belong to you. Your response belongs to you. Your character belongs to you. But someone else's reaction belongs to them. Their opinion belongs to them. Their decision belongs to them. Their behavior belongs to them. And their inability to recognize your worth does not reduce your worth. You do not need to spend your entire life standing before someone else's judgment, waiting for permission to believe in yourself. Let them misunderstand you if they choose. Let them walk away if they must. Let yesterday remain yesterday. You can learn from what happened without living inside it. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop confusing caring with controlling. You can love someone and still understand that their choices are not yours to manage. You can regret a mistake and still decide that punishment is no longer necessary. You can prepare for tomorrow without spending tonight suffering over imaginary disasters. There is wisdom in asking yourself, is there something I can do about this right now? If the answer is yes, take the step. If the answer is no, breathe. That does not mean the situation is unimportant. It means your energy is valuable, and you should not spend it fighting battles that cannot be won through worry. Sometimes letting go is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is choosing not to check again. It is refusing to replay the conversation. It is putting the phone down. It is closing your eyes and saying, I have done what I can for today. And then you rest. You allow tomorrow to arrive when tomorrow is ready. You allow other people to be responsible for themselves. You allow the past to remain a teacher instead of making it your permanent home. Because your life is too precious to be consumed by things that were never yours to carry. You do not need to control everything to be safe. You do not need everyone's approval to be worthy. You do not need to know exactly what tomorrow holds to walk toward it with courage. Sometimes the greatest act of strength is simply opening your hands, releasing what you cannot control, and trusting yourself to meet whatever comes next with a heart that is no longer carrying what was never meant to belong to it. Your mind is a place you live in every day, and what you repeatedly allow into that place matters. Every thought you entertain, every voice you believe, every memory you revisit, and every fear you feed takes up a little space inside you. That is why learning to choose what deserves space in your mind is not selfish. It is necessary. You cannot control every thought that arrives, but you can become more intentional about which thoughts you continue to nourish. There will always be voices telling you that you are behind, that you are not enough, that someone else is doing better, that your mistakes define you, or that your future will repeat your past. If you give every voice equal authority, your mind will become crowded with opinions that were never meant to guide your life. You must learn to ask, does this thought deserve my attention? Not every thought deserves an answer. Not every criticism deserves a defense. Not every memory deserves another replay. Not every fear deserves another hour of your life. This does not mean you ignore reality. It means you become selective with your mental energy. If something is useful, learn from it. If something is true, face it. If something can be changed, work on it. But if something only creates fear, shame, comparison, or helplessness without helping you move forward, you have permission to release it. Think about how carefully you protect the things you value in your physical life. You lock your doors. You choose what food enters your body. You decide who you invite into your home. Your mind deserves that same kind of protection. You can choose better questions. Instead of asking, why is my life so difficult? Ask, what can I do with this moment? Instead of asking, why does everyone have more than me? Ask, what can I build with what I have? Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what will I learn if I try? The questions you ask repeatedly shape the direction of your attention. And your attention is powerful. Where attention goes, energy follows. If you spend every morning looking for reasons to feel inadequate, you will find them. If you spend your days searching for evidence that life is against you, your mind will become skilled at collecting it. But if you begin looking for opportunities to grow, moments of gratitude, small victories, meaningful connections, and reasons to keep moving, you teach your mind to notice those things too. This is not about pretending that pain does not exist. It is about refusing to let pain become the only thing you can see. You can acknowledge what hurts and still notice what remains. You can admit that today was difficult and still be grateful that you survived it. You can recognize your weaknesses and still respect your progress. You can have a heavy heart and still choose a hopeful direction. That choice may be small, but small choices become habits, and habits become the architecture of a life. So protect your inner space. Be careful about the stories you repeat about yourself. Be careful about the people whose opinions you allow to become your identity. Be careful about the memories you revisit. Simply because suffering has become familiar, your mind deserves more than constant criticism. Give it truth. Give it patience. Give it courage. Give it room to breathe. And when negativity arrives, do not ask, how can I make every negative thought disappear? Ask something more powerful. Does this thought deserve to stay? Because you may not control everything that enters your mind, but you can choose what you continue to carry, what you continue to believe, and what you finally decide to leave behind. And that choice can slowly transform the place inside you where you once felt trapped into a place where peace, dignity, courage, and possibility finally have room to grow.